Hello there, welcome to SaberDuelgaming, where we always take the high ground, and welcome to our not retro review but game review of Cobra Kai: The Story Continues. Whilst this game only came out in 2020, so doesn't fit with my pattern of reviewing retro games, there's something very retro feeling about it, and indeed the series which it's based on. One of the biggest reasons for the success of Cobra Kai is that in following up from an 80s series of movies, The Karate Kid, it's managed to hold appeal to people that were young during the 80s as well as new modern audiences, and that's something that the creators of this game have seemingly been keen to do as well. So let's take a look and decide, has this been a cheap nostalgia pop, or has this game truly proven itself to be badass? As is often the case, the first thing that stands out about this game is the graphics, and the look of this doesn't feel like it's actually based directly on the series. More, this feels like a game based on an anime or comic of the Cobra Kai show, but that does give it a unique flavour and unique feel, which generally brings the game to life and again ties into having that retro feel to it. And that anime stroke comic book vibe doesn't just stop at the cutscenes, it carries on into the gameplay with exaggerated poses and special effects attached to each kick, and a giant rat head. It also goes into the menu select screens and the character upgrade scenes, which all have a very unique feel and are really quite beautiful in their own strange way. This may be a very niche appeal, but what it does do, it does well. Generally, the graphics, the art style, the way the game is cut and looks and sounds, it has a very specific vibe to it. This is maybe something that's going to divide some people. Some people will find it silly and cartoony, others are just going to think that it's absolutely fantastic and fun. There's no real way of saying whether this is good or bad. What it's aiming for and what it's doing, it does really, really well. But I can totally understand that for modern audiences and for certain types of gamers, this will feel a little bit silly, cartoony, and not what they were looking for in a Cobra Kai game. I guess this one just comes down to your own individual opinion. One thing that, in my opinion at least, helps to really ground the over-the-top graphics and visual style is the fact that the audio does feel a bit more like Cobra Kai. The background music sounds exactly like something Johnny would want to play, and it helps as well that a number of the characters do actually have the original cast voicing them. It's only a minor thing, but considering that the visual style of it is so over the top, it really does help it feel a little bit more like the actual show. And what about the story? Yeah, I know, it does actually have a story. There's no attempt to make it tie in directly to the series, nor do I think there ever should have been. Instead, it's loosely based around the theme that Sam and Miguel are part of rival dojos and yet are trying to hook up with each other, and this always leads to chaos and trouble. Depending on how you start the game, you either choose to be part of Miyagi-Do or Cobra Kai, and from there, depending on which side you're on, you receive a letter to go meet the other, and off you go into a bit of a web of intrigue and random street fights. It's simple and basic, and that's exactly what it needs to be. No one's here for the story, we're here for a bit of fighting fun. So, with that in mind, the next important question is, what about the gameplay? But the gameplay plays out as it should. Don't get me wrong, if I'd been told I was designing a Cobra Kai game, I wouldn't have done this. I would have done something completely different, and yet what they've chosen to do, it's kind of perfect. This is a show that is so heavily designed to appeal to those with a love of the 80s, and so this game, it really feels like an 80s, 90s computer game. For those who ever played games such as Streets of Rage, or even a load of other combat games from that time, hell, even things like Golden Axe, that side-scrolling fighting style, that's exactly what this does, and whilst that style is basic as hell and maybe kind of outdated, what it does, yet again, it does really well. You have a host of different characters that you can unlock as you walk around. They each have their own very unique visual moves. Yes, they're all very over the top and kind of ridiculous, but it still makes it entertaining as hell to play. And what I will say is, when you play this as a 2-player, yes, a 2-player with someone in the same room as you, not just online. I know, shocking. That actually makes it even more fun. It's so entertaining. There is one slight problem with this though, and it's a problem that existed with those games back in the 80s and 90s as well, and that is that it does get very repetitive. It's not really best played in long stints. There's only so many times you can walk along, the screen locks, you fight the characters on that screen, then you walk along. Your screen locks again, you fight more characters, with the models of those characters getting very repetitive as well. This works out better in small stints of gameplay. However, the advantage here, unlike games like Streets of Rage back in the 80s and 90s, is that you can simply save the game. You can pause and play later. So, as long as you're happy doing that, you might actually find a real gem here. At least, that's what I think I found. So Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid, the saga continues. I think this gets a 7 out of 10. It's enjoyable, it's fun, and overall, as long as you don't do it in long stints, I think you're going to enjoy it. And the fact that Cobra Kai 2 has now been announced means Cobra Kai will never die. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please give us a thumbs up, comment below, and feel free to subscribe on TikTok, right here on YouTube and Instagram.